are not an organization. We are the resistance. We are not the voice of the people. We are the people. We are tired of those in power abusing their power.
They got to me. They silenced me, took things, intimidated me, made threats, applied calculated pressure. There were many attempts to break me that did not work. They thought I would give in and crack and thought I would fold. I didn't. I'm still here, obviously. I don't know for how long, but what I do know is that they poked the bear. I'm risking it all to return back to this channel, to break my silence finally, and I'm doing that for you. Nothing else. You. The one person, subscriber, the one comment, the one like that stuck by this channel and shown your loyalty even while I was being silenced for months. Loyalty means everything to me, and for that I am here to reciprocate.
Archives of information have been centralized on computers. The Guardian's archives are only in one place. They're not in libraries all across the nation that people look for. They're only looked for on the internet. And because of copyright legislation, they're not copied elsewhere to other places on the internet. So when something disappears from the archives, the electronic archives of the West, to which all information is moving into, it is gone forever. It has not only ceased to have existed, it has ceased to have ever have existed. And when you go to those web pages that have been removed from Western papers, you won't see the tail lines. You will just see page not found. You won't see anything in the index at all. We are now approaching the state of Orwell's dictum, perfect dictum, that he who controls the present controls the past. He who controls internet servers controls the intellectual record of mankind, and by controlling that, controls our perceptions of who we are, and by controlling that, controls what laws and regulations we make in society.
I think we have to be prepared for a world where we see a fusion of our physical, our digital, and our biological dimensions. So it will be a world integrating the physical, biological, and the digital dimensions. So it will be a new world. And I'm looking for a minister in 10 years. Probably it will be completely different from what it is now. But we have, as you also mentioned in your speech, I think we have to remain optimists.
Thank you.
mRNA, global warming, mRNA, global warming.
It is the intent of Congress to provide a comprehensive program for the future security of the United States, the CIA. I had the gravest forebodings about this organization and warned the President that as set up, neither he, the National Security Council, nor anyone else would be in a position to know what it was doing or to control it. Clandestine activities included propaganda, economic warfare, espionage, counter-espionage, covert operations, which are so planned that if uncovered, the U.S. government can plausibly disclaim any responsibility for them.
Some days I am just on fire. What can I say?
I don't want to kill myself, and I'm not going to kill myself.
Before I took office, there was a lot of folks out there making some pretty bold predictions about how things would turn out.
But if Biden wins, your borders are gone.
Crisis on the border with Mexico.
The middle class is gone.
The baby formula shortage.
The supply chain crisis on full display in grocery stores.
The Keystone XL pipeline has been blocked.
Your safety is gone.
13 U.S. troops killed in Kabul this week.
But the U.S. is now moving its embassy personnel out of the capital.
Gas price.
Folks, if I were smart, I'd say thank you and leave.
Ms. Murphy, you work for the FBI, is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Do you know what elite capture is?
No, sir.
Ideological appeal and even blackmail. Are you familiar with techniques, ma'am?
I am familiar with those techniques.
Nation state that wants to compromise U.S. officials.
I don't know that I've seen them personally.
Ms. Murphy, does it concern you some of the revelations that have been coming out of the Oversight Committee about the millions of dollars that have been paid to the Biden family?
I'm not aware of money being paid to the Biden family.
No, you're not aware of that at all?
No, sir.
I'm so damn proud of him. He has an enormous talent. He's a brilliant young man. You know what I mean?
You, ma'am, you sit here before the Homeland Security Committee. Our job is to protect the homeland. And you act as if you don't know anything about it.
Were you aware that the FBI had Hunter Biden's laptop since December of 2019?
I can't speak to exactly when we had a laptop available.
Do you understand why the American people are concerned, ma'am?
You got fired.
Yes or no?
I understand why American people should be concerned about the threat from the Chinese Communist Party.
Are you connecting the dots at all?
No, sir.
You don't connect the dots? Everybody knows in this town what's going on. Everybody knows what's coming out of these committee hearings right now. And it's pretty sad coming from somebody who, as a young man, wanted to be a part of your organization. And now the American people hardly trust the FBI. The American people, quite honestly, are wondering why Hunter Biden is still walking the streets. Everybody in this country knows that if the FBI and our DOJ had the type of damning information, hard evidence, bank records, etc., on the money laundering that this president, his family, have been up to, and their names were Eric and Don Jr., we wouldn't even be having this hearing. They'd be in jail.
Over a long, long time.
What do you think about the whistleblowers that just said I can't do it anymore? Do you feel like they betrayed the institution, or are you glad that they're up here?
Nobody believes it except of his and his good friend Rudy Giuliani.
You know, like, I support the FBI. I think the FBI does amazing work.
Oh, son of a bitch.
Is there a part of you, though, that feels torn, ma'am? Like the whistleblowers that are coming up here now in droves that just say, I can't do it anymore. I didn't swear an oath to the FBI. Is there a part of you that feels torn, or not at all? Ma'am, I'm asking you a serious question.
Sir, I'm very proud to work for the FBI.
What I find in talking to Americans is a widespread, even resounding appreciation and respect for the men and women of the FBI.
That's not what I asked you, ma'am. I asked you if you feel torn.
Not at the least.
Not the slightest. Mm-hmm. Well, that's pretty sad, ma'am.
It's insane. It's fucking insane.
What the fuck?
Some viewers may find the following video disturbing. Viewer discretion is advised.
Tomography with 30 watts, looking for oil in the ground. I found 26 oil wells,
over a 9-state area, and 100% of the time was accurate with just 30 watts of power beaming straight into solid rock. HAARP uses 1 billion watts beamed straight into the ionosphere for experiments. Picture these strings on the piano as layers of the earth. Each one has its own frequency. What we used to do is beam radio waves into the ground, and it would vibrate any strings that were present in the ground. We might get a sound back like, and we'd say, that's natural gas. We might get a sound back like, and we say that's crude oil. We were able to identify each frequency. We accomplished this with just 30 watts of radio power. If you do this with 1 billion watts, vibrations are so violent that the entire piano would shake. In fact, the whole house would shake. In fact, the vibrations could be so severe underground that could even cause an earthquake.
Because now, what people perhaps had never seen before can be seen to know what's possible. But the brilliance of this inaugural class and its leaders is the ability to see what can be, unburdened by what has been, and then to make it real.
The most effective way to protect yourself from subconscious manipulation is by being aware of how it works. It works like programming a computer. Information is fed into a computer, and the computer acts on it. If the information fed into the computer is wrong, it still acts on it. The theory of cognitive dissonance holds that the mind automatically and involuntarily rejects information not in line with previously accepted thoughts and beliefs. Any repeating light or sound pattern can lead you into an altered state. It is in this state of mind where one is the most receptive to mental programming, mind control. Whether or not the information takes hold in the mind depends on 2 factors: trust in the source of the information and repetition of the message. Trust in the source of the information induces acceptance of the message as true, even if it is not understood. Repetition of the message embeds it in the subconscious so that acceptance of its truth and accuracy becomes a conditioned response. Thus, this information will be accepted as true without thinking about it whenever it is presented again.
In my line of work, you got to keep repeating things over and over and over again for the truth to sink in. For the truth to sink in. To kind of catapult the propaganda.
The most awesome goddamn propaganda force in the whole godless world.
You're never gonna get any truth from us. We'll tell you any shit you want to hear.
Anger, wonder. It's over and over and over again. 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 It's over and over and over again.
My fellow Americans, it is my great honor to mention and to say to you what you already know. We have a President of the United States in one Joe Biden who is committed to this work. He is determined to, I will quote from him, give hate no safe harbor. And I'll tell you firsthand, I've seen what you know. His actions match his powerful words. His actions match his powerful words.
Barack and I think it's a right for people that bad at healthcare.
Powerful words.
We hold these truths to be self-evident. All men and women created by you know the thing.
Powerful words.
We choose truth over facts. Poor kids are just as bright and just as talented as white kids. Wealthy kids, black kids.
Powerful words.
COVID has taken this year, just since the outbreak, it's taken more than 100 years. Look, here's the lives. When you think about it. You got more questions, but I tell you, if you have a problem figuring out whether you're for me or Trump, then you ain't black. True international effort to pressure, isolate, and punish China.
It's powerful words.
There are organizations that have, throughout time, essentially have an agenda that they've been following, and it is rooted back all the way back to the Knights Templar and their founding. And
Knights Templar being what?
They are the knights that essentially regarded themselves as the children of, or the progeny of Christ, and that they were a part of a privileged line of rulers that were intended to rule the world. Okay.
Well, what year would this have been?
That would be, the founding of it would have been 1118, and essentially they had put together a crusade to go to the Holy Land, ostensibly under the cover of being the hospitaller knights who were to care for and help facilitate travelers to the Holy Land that was newly opened from the Muslim world. But their true agenda was to find relics and artifacts underneath King Solomon's temple that would verify that they in fact were the progeny that originated with Christ, and that would give them the validity to come back and have leverage in a political sense in the medieval world.
But that's the issue that I'm seeing a lot lately. We are leaving our thinking to someone else, in this case to the media and the government. It wasn't even hours after that event happened, and already the media was using the name Osama bin Laden. And of course everybody they had a blood in their mouths, if you will, and they wanted the government to do the thinking for us. Oh, if they're saying Osama bin Laden, let's go get him, without using critical thinking. And I was mentioning to you offline that I recently reconnected with a good friend of my childhood who happens to be a law graduate from Georgetown, has a doctorate degree in law. She stopped practicing law to become a teacher because that was her passion. And she was telling me that the goal of the Department of Education in the United States is essentially to make high school graduates think like 7th graders. In other words, to take critical thinking, to limit verbal and written and writing skills. Do you think this is part of the problem?
Very, very much. And I see more of a need for education now than ever. Not our public fool system, as I've heard people call it, but true education. It doesn't necessarily come in a mass a production line type of situation. Matter of fact, it's best if it doesn't. I was reading a Swedish article with a Google translator recently, and I thought it was a beautiful statement. They're writing up about my work, and they said, there is no need for another conspiracy than the one that destroyed the educational system.
That's very powerful.
Very, very. And look what happened. Imagine this, the buildings turned to dust. They didn't burn up, they didn't slam to the ground, they turned to dust in midair. We know that because of lots of key features: lack of significant seismic signal, lack of a seismic signal that traveled to the Earth, there wasn't one, and lack of damage to the bathtub. And we saw there was very little rubble left over, and we saw the steel turning to dust as it fell, trailing dust. So here was these huge buildings that turned to dust in midair right in front of our faces on TV. Why did so few people see it? That's the question we should all be asking.
Intermarriages resulted in works of art arriving through inheritance rather than departing. And Baron James, who was head of the Paris branch and the youngest of the 5 sons of Marie Rothschild, gave an astonishingly uninhibited description of the 19th century Rothschild policy of keeping it in the family. I'll quote to you from what he wrote and make you smile. In our family, we've always tried to keep love in the family. In this sense, it was more or less understood since childhood that children would never think of marrying outside the family, so that our fortune would never leave it. You couldn't write that today.
What I'm going to talk about tonight is the dark and very, very, very dark history of the system that we live in. We live in a system, and there are people who are very powerful in this world who actually have think tanks that get together regularly on a regular basis, and they basically manufacture this society that we live in. It's a system, and this, what we live in, with all the stuff that you see, wars, famines, corruption, that's basically the end result of these think tanks that get together and produce this society that we live in. The Catholic Church, the Roman cult, has been very, very, very busy in the last couple of thousand years, starting with the Julian dynasty, then the Flavian dynasty, then the Antons, the Antonys. We had the empire. Rome was a republic, became an empire. Just like that, overnight. They killed Julius Caesar, bang, Augustus. It's an empire. This empire is our enemy, as you will see, because it has morphed as it's gone through the ages, with the backing of the Roman cult and a very, very dark priesthood, who through their sorcery and evil and their papal bulls, they seal those papal bulls, they put a spell on them, they put them in their vaults, and what is written on those papal bulls goes. Why? Well, because they're sorcerers. And the elite families who control the Vatican and who are behind this corporation, and it's the corporation of the Apostle Peter. because Constantine, we can go earlier than this, we can go to 325, Constantine the Great. Supposedly, hundreds of years later, they found Constantine's donation. And that donation was written to his Pope Sylvester, to his, Constantine was of course the emperor, the Pope was Sylvester, and apparently Constantine says to Sylvester in this document, St. Peter is the apostle of Jesus, that Jesus gave the kingdom of this earth to, therefore we're going to claim taxes based on that, on the donation of Constantine. We're paying taxes because of that fictional document, guys. All taxes to Rome and the elite families, the insane Khazarian and Venetian black nobility families, just like the Saxe-Coburg-Gothers, that the Windsor family, false name. These are the black nobility family, bankers, bullion brokers. There's a book called Babylon's Bankers. There's a chapter in there called Monotheism, Military, Money, and Monotheism, Military, Money, Monarchies. He has exposed that this gathering, this cabal, they can't work separate from each other. A lot of people, when they see this pyramid of control and they put the Queen on the top, and the Zionists and the Freemasons don't understand that the Vatican and the Jesuits and the Superior General of the Jesuits actually sit on top, behind the scenes, but they work together.
I have waited for 35 years to make this DVD presentation. The people who have been friends to me over the years and have given me information, whom I refer to as the elite, are now retired in their 70s and 80s. I have withheld this information for these years out of respect for these people who have been willing to risk oftentimes their position or their retirement in order to be able to tell me things. Let me say, if I may, emphatically, there positively is a group of people on the face of the earth who control the world. Nothing ever happens in Washington by chance. Nothing takes place in the financial world by happenstance. Men behind closed doors have decided everything that's going to happen, and my lifestyle and yours oftentimes is controlled by these people, by what they do. These elite of the world know what's going to happen tomorrow morning.
Near CERN, purely demonic rituals.
Oh yes, I saw that.
Go ahead, sir.
It was terrifying.
Yeah, absolutely.
That video of the demonic rituals
Yes.
of opening the tunnel, and I only had a brief opportunity to look at it. I saw what was going on. It was openly demonic. It was devoted to the worship of Satan.
It's in our face.
But I didn't. I knew that it was the Goddard Tunnel, but I didn't realize it was connected to the whole CERN thing.
Well, physically it's not connected.
Right.
I want to make that clear. But in the sense of the spiritual world and the communication through ritual, they are connected. And in fact, in that ceremony, that demonstration, they showed the opening of the portal that CERN will achieve. And the tunnel itself represents, in physics, quantum tunneling, which is a communication utilizing an artificially intelligent computer, an adiabatic quantum computer, which runs its computations through another dimension, retrieves that information from another dimension, achieving a solution that we can use in our world. Now that is real, that's not fantasy, that comes right from the manufacturer. This is the machine that is employed now, just recently, now at CERN, and will be responsible for the initiation of the opening of the portal and the stability, the holding open of the portal for the receiving of, and I'll give this definitively, it's digitized DNA, demonic DNA, in a digitized form, ones and zeros coming through this portal, received here, reassembled, if you will, and then presented to a hybrid body.
Because as you said, Lucifer desires to be God, as the Bible says, and Lucifer desires to create his own race in his own image.
Exactly.
And I think you would agree, this is very hard for many Christians to grasp. It's a truth that's hard for Christians to really own. And that is, the world is exactly as the Bible says that it is.
Yes, it is.
And there's an invisible world, Lucifer at the top, his hierarchy of demons. He compartmentalizes information on a need-to-know basis. And at the very top, there are men and women who are open Luciferians.
Yes, indeed.
They have committed themselves, they participate in rituals to the worship of Satan, because as you said, they believe that they're going to conquer Christ.
Yep.
And Satan is the true, or Lucifer is the true God.
That's right.
Now, you said that, and I said that, and the Bible says that, but for some reason there's almost a veil in the minds of many Christians. And I pray, as we interview you, that the Holy Spirit would just break that veil of deception, and that God's people could really see reality as it really is, instead of living in this kind of fog state, which is based on their unbelief of God's word.
Well, let's use the collider for our purposes.
Okay.
Let's call that evidence.
Yeah.
It's physical, it's tangible, it's right there in our face.
Right.
If we accept the symbology they have presented, which is demonic in origin,
yes,
their statues, their videos,
yeah,
and we take that at face value as definitive evidence to the hidden agenda,
right,
we can say there's the machine, the most powerful machine, the largest machine ever created in recorded history of mankind. And that is definitive proof that we have a problem. This is a extinction level event, this opening of the portal. If we look at the wars...
Did you say extension or extinction?
Extinction, I'm sorry.
Extinction level, okay.
If we look at the wars that are going on right now, imagine if that portal was open. The key to the bottomless pit is the Large Hadron Collider. If they were to turn that key and open that doorway and we were flooded, the wars would seem insignificant and all the other ills of the planet compared to the opening of this portal. This is why it is imperative, because it's right now today, and it's in our face, and it's tangible proof. That breaks down our own veil.
Okay, so Anthony is telling you in a methodical, rational, logical way that we have evidence. The visual pictures, the videotapes, the published statements of the heads, some of the heads of CERN, and they are saying in their videos and the visuals and the evidence that you're talking about, if you showed it in a courtroom, it would be acceptable evidence, right, of openly demonic worship of Satan and open admission of many of the agendas that you talked about. Now, since this is true, and it is true because you have evidence to back up what you're saying, and it also, there's no conflict between what you're saying and the Bible. In fact, the Bible would support what you're saying.
Revelation 9.
Revelation 9. And when their hidden agendas, when the fruit of their hidden agendas, when these beings start moving through the portal and entering into the earth, I don't think most Christians are ready for the physical manifestation and the supernatural changes that occur in what we call our present reality. Our present reality is about ready to be violently shaken and reshaped. They are already in communication with something that has a personality and has ability to communicate. And the information that they're receiving must be very high-level information, because they're feeding it to laboratories and technologies all across the planet. And what you said, which is so sobering, that video on the internet that captured it was an open satanic worship ceremony, I guess in the Goddard Tunnel.
Yes.
And I saw it and I was like, my mouth hung open because it was so in your face, Luciferian and satanic.
I would say we've probably not seen something that bold in the mainstream media.
No, we haven't.
In our lifetime.
No. And you know, there's been an escalation, and it keeps getting faster and more bold and more prominent. The Illuminati symbols at the Super Bowls and these giant musical performances in stadiums by music superstars and the Olympics. There are in-your-face occult messages and satanic messages and symbols, which tells you there's a very powerful Luciferian elite in this world, very active, and they're not hiding anymore.
No, they're not.
They've come out.
As long as I'm in my apartment, I'm okay. But when I want to go out, I get weird.
God of war. God of pain. Of suffering. Of destruction. I chase redemption. That I wake up, wake up, wake up, wake up, wake up, wake up, wake up.
You mentioned earlier, that you're aspirationally Jewish, that you surround yourself with, that you're surrounded by so many Jews. So, are you part of the Jewish conspiracy? What exactly is the?
Maybe.
That'll please the haters online.
Yeah,
I'm sure.
No, I mean, I grew up around a lot of Jewish people. I went to Hebrew preschool, Rachel Spiro in South Africa. My name is very Jewish.
I will tell you that for the past 10 years, people have assumed in my community that you're Jewish until I informed them otherwise.
Yeah.
Elon is a pretty Jewish name.
He is super Jewish.
Yeah.
And then I went to Israel when I was 13. Visited Masada. I'm certainly checking the boxes on a lot of things. Like I said, most of my friends are Jewish, just worked out that way. So sometimes I guess maybe I forget. Am I Jewish? I'm Jewish. Aspirationally Jewish.
A German court sentenced an 87-year-old grandma to 10 months in jail, or as I call it, likely a life sentence, for denying the Holocaust. Her name is Ursula Haverbeck, which, if I can pause here for a second.
Do you have, I don't agree with that, but okay, do you have concerns about the level of Israeli influence in our politics here in the United States of America?
I don't know. I don't know. Do I think the Israelis have more influence than others? David, I believe in supporting Israel, that it's important for the United States. And you and I can disagree on that. I believe our aid to Israel of $4 billion. You're trying to connect me to Benjamin Netanyahu.
I'm not trying to connect you.
I don't like neocons.
Because he's the prime minister of the country who you're pledging to fund their war. So of course I have to bring up who he is. I'm saying Benjamin Netanyahu, the man who you said as president, you will support his war until the end, give them everything they need. He has been, since the 1990s, lying to the American people, saying Iran is 5 years away from developing a nuclear weapon. Do you not have any misgivings about supporting someone in a foreign government who is lying the American people into a war which he wants us to fight, not them? It's not Israel who's going to be fighting a war with Iran. It's the young men in our country.
Why does Israel need our help? We need to get out of their way. We interfere with them. We interfere with them when they deal with their borders, when they want to have peace treaties. We tell them what they can do because we buy their allegiance and they sacrifice their sovereignty to us. And then they decide they want to bomb something. That's their business, but they should, suffer the consequences. When they bombed the Iraqi missile site, nuclear site back in the 80s, I was one of the few in Congress that said it's none of our business, and Israel should take care of themselves. Israel has 200, 300 nuclear missiles, and they can take care of themselves. Why should we commit? We don't even have a treaty with Israel. Why do we have this automatic commitment that we're going to send our kids and send our money endlessly to Israel? So I think they're quite capable of taking care of themselves. I think we do detriment. Just think of all the money we gave to Egypt over 30 or 40 years. Now look, we were buying friendship. Now there's a civil war. They're less friendly to Israel. That whole thing is going to backfire once we go bankrupt and we remove our troops. So I think we should be very cautious in our willingness to go to war and send troops without a proper declaration by the U.S. Congress.
Would you grant me this, that as long as there is an Israel in the world, and I'm a big supporter of Israel, and as long as America backs it, the kind of Muslims that take their religion that seriously that they would strap on a suicide belt are always going to be out for us and always going to be trying to kill us?
I think we can reduce it very seriously, sir. I disagree with you on Israel, but...
In what way? You're not a supporter?
I hope Israel flourishes. I just don't think it's worth an American life or an American dollar.
You don't think the existence of Israel in the world is worth an American life or an American dollar?
Not only Israel, sir, but Saudi Arabia or Kuwait or Bolivia. I'm much
You're really not telling me that Israel is on a par with Saudi Arabia.
I'm telling you, what I'm telling you, sir, is I'm most interested in the survival of the United States.
A big warning on Capitol Hill yesterday from FBI Director Christopher Wray about possible hacking attacks by the Chinese government. He said China could target our infrastructure, causing potentially catastrophic damage. Nicole Skanga has more now from Washington.
China has shown it will make us pay.
FBI Director Christopher Wray delivered this warning on Capitol Hill.
China's hackers are positioning on American infrastructure in preparation to wreak havoc and cause real-world harm to American citizens.
Cautioning Chinese hackers are aiming to infiltrate the nation's pipelines, water treatment plants, transportation system, and even the U.S. power grid.
Imagine not one pipeline, but many pipelines disrupted. Telecommunications going down so people can't use their cell phone. People start getting sick from polluted water. Trains get derailed. This is truly an everything, everywhere, all at once scenario. And it's one where the Chinese government believes that it will likely crush American will for the U.S. to defend Taiwan in the event of a major conflict there.
This week, the FBI announced a takedown of Volt Typhoon, a Chinese-backed hacking operation enabling malicious actors to spy on U.S. critical infrastructure. Accessed through privately owned office and home internet routers, federal law enforcement disabled the hackers, obtaining court orders to delete the malware off hundreds of infected devices.
They target our freedoms, reaching inside our borders across America to silence, coerce, and threaten some of our citizens and residents.
U.S. officials also warn they expect Chinese hackers to wage influence campaigns online centered on the 2024 election.
Yeah, what do you think of the Cowboys? What do you think of this?
Yeah, did you see the simulated combat on TV? Yeah, I watched it. A bunch of rich gladiators that could care less about me. Did you see it? Yeah, I'm empty too. Yeah, I did. I fill my head with facts and figures that don't matter instead of learning the political system and standing up for myself. And I'm not saying sports are bad in and of themselves if you're involved in it, but not when it's your whole focus. It's always the same. They're like androids. They have like little fake conversations. So, what do you think of the playoffs? What do you think of the weather? Oh, yeah. And you start bringing up, I don't know, what do you think of the surveillance grid going in? Have you heard about how they're listening to all of us without warrants? They're like, well, gee, buddy, what you bringing that up for? It's kind of weird. Well, it is weird they're doing it. It's very dangerous. Well, I don't care. I'm not involved in politics. I don't have to worry about that, Mac. Oh, really? They're putting the grid in place to rob you, you fat...
Gratuitous, inaccurate, and inappropriate.
In a psychological sense, we have become a nation of sheep. Okay, and I think a nation of sheep is what breeds this managerial class of wolves, actually. And so I think you get what you deserve anyway. It's a two-way, just as trust is a two-way relationship, we don't have trust one direction or the other. Once you do adopt this nation of sheep, waking up two-legged higher mammals, celebrating our diversity, doing what our iPhones tell us to do on a given day, making our way across an American terrain. Yeah, you kind of get the government that feeds you and creates more of that in return. And it's up to us to declare independence. And so when I say things like the other night, as I said, we live in a 1776 moment, that's what I mean. It's our time to declare independence, not just from the managerial class, but even from within that inner prison within each of us too, that has confined us by the tools of the managerial class, including but not limited to the algorithmification of our modern life. That's a whole separate discussion for another day. But I think that we live in a moment where it's time for a modern declaration of independence of the forces that have shackled us on the exterior and the interior. And it's not a coincidence that those two things happen at the same time. They actually go together. And so I think each of us, we talked about this at a governmental level, but I think each of us has an inner sheep and an inner lion. And I think right now the inner sheep is winning the day, mostly, at least across our general population level. And it's partly because we've been lulled into that by having the comfort of the fact that we're not accountable for our decisions, but somebody else is. And so might as well give in to my sheep-like tendencies rather than my own.
Do you think what you're telling me now and what you're going to tell me is in the next hour or so, hour and a half, 2 hours, is part of their secret information that they give to their members?
Only at the very top. You don't pass this on to a third degree master mason.
That's my point.
Yeah, they have no clue about
what
this.
You're saying is you think that you've come up with the secrets of the 33rd degree Masons, information about their activities and some of the secrets that they hold within their own organization. Is that what you're saying now?
Yes, they and the
Skull and Bones. That's what you're going to deal with in the next hour, 2 hours?
Yes.
Very interesting. Okay, keep going.
The king is not England. And England is not the king.
Being a Freemason, he was chaplain of his lodge. In a nutshell, they would claim to be a social club that has ritual. If a brother Mason commits a murder or treason, they're obliged basically to look after their own. The headquarters for a lot of those in New Zealand, there's two main areas. One is Havelock North, Masonic ritual abuse. The ritual abuse happened in a Masonic lodge. Trouble is, a lot of police are members of the Masonic lodges as well.
Passing the degree of fellowcraft, now seek for the light in Masonry by being raised to the sublime degree as the Mason.
Is this of your own free will in accord?
Yes.
You will say I, announce your name in full, and in an audible tone of voice, repeat after me. I, of my own free will and accord, in addition to my former obligations, that I will always hail, forever conceal, and never reveal, any of the secret arts, parts, or points, of the hidden mysteries of Freemasonry, appertaining to the degree, of Master Mason, to any person, under the canopy of heaven, except it be, to a true and lawful brother of this degree, or within the body, of a just, and legally constituted lodge, of Master Masons, and neither unto him nor them, till after strict trial, to examination, or lawful information, furthermore, that I will aid and assist, all distressed, worthy brother Master Masons, their widows and orphans, whosoever dispersed around the globe, that I will keep the secrets, of a brother Master Mason, as my own, when given to me, in charge as such, murder and treason accepted. murder, and treason accepted. Furthermore, that I will not violate the chastity of a brother Master Mason's wife, daughter, sister, mother or widow, or suffer the same, to be done by another. Furthermore, that I will not give the grand hailing sign of this degree, unless I am in real distress, or for instruction, finding myself under no less of penalty, than that of having my body severed in twain. My bowels taken thence, and burned to ashes, and the ashes cast, to the four winds of heaven, that no more remembrance, may be had of me, among men and Masons forever. So help me God, and keep me steadfast, in the due observance of this, my solemn obligation, as Master Mason. Now, tap your hand on your head, in token of your sincerity, kiss the Holy Bible on which you now believe. Senior Warden, release the candidate from the faith, though it being 3 times around his naked body is to signify that he is now bound to fraternity by a 3-fold tie.
To participate in the kind of rituals you described?
Well, I think it's really important to note that, first of all, this is not a group that you sign up for because you saw an ad in the paper. This is something that your ancestors participated in and have proven their loyalty and effectiveness. And this is something that goes on for generations. And oftentimes it's something, first of all, that you're born in. If you're going to be a high-level person in the organization, you're absolutely born into it. And you're trained and you're studied throughout your childhood to see what your aptitudes and talents are and your level of loyalty and commitment are. And then based on your individual positive and negative, they select tasks that would be appropriate where you can perform well for them. And people who are in the Masons and the Illuminati, also referred to as the light bearers, can sometimes come through various faiths. The Mormons in particular have very close ties to the Masons, and I think that's part of the reason why they are so well versed in their ancestry. Also, the Nation of Islam, the worship of Islam, has a lot of parallel belief systems, as well as what the Illuminati believes. I'm not sure if I answered your question very well.
Let's just step back for a moment.
Okay.
Looking at the United States, who are these families? Are they're generational Satanists?
Yeah.
Are they prominent families?
Absolutely. Absolutely. They're people that are in the news on a daily basis. And sometimes it's the people behind them that are even more powerful. They're the people that you and I will never hear about.
All right. Thanks, guys.
Naturally, gold prices immediately began to soar. 9 years later, gold sold for $880 per ounce, 25 times what the gold in Fort Knox was sold for.
One would think that eventually someone in the government would get wind of what was happening and blow the whistle. The largest fortune in the history of the world stolen. Shades of the old James Bond film, Goldfinger. Well, as a matter of fact, Ian Fleming, the author of the James Bond series, was head of the British counterintelligence service, MI5.
Some believe in the intelligence community that he wrote much of his fiction as a warning, as many authors of fiction do.
If the removal of all the good delivery gold from Fort Knox can be viewed as a deliberate raid on the U.S. Treasury, then such an operation might well have been years in the making, namely 40 years. Certainly enough time for Fleming to get wind of it and try to prevent it.
So just how did the story of the Fort Knox gold robbery get out? It all started with an article in a New York periodical in 1974. The article charged that the Rockefeller family was manipulating the Federal Reserve to sell off Fort Knox gold at bargain basement prices to anonymous European speculators. 3 days later, the anonymous source of the story, Louise Auchincloss Boyer, mysteriously fell to her death from the window of her 10th floor apartment in New York. How would Mrs. Boyer have known of the Rockefeller connection to the Fort Knox gold heist? She was the longtime secretary of Nelson Rockefeller. For the next 14 years, this man, Eðìţəɗ, a wealthy Ohio industrialist, devoted himself to a quest for the truth concerning the Fort Knox gold. He wrote thousands of letters to over 1,000 government and banking officials, trying to find out how much gold was really left and where the rest of it had gone.
Edith Roosevelt, the granddaughter of President Teddy Roosevelt, questioned the actions of the government in a March 1975 edition of the New Hampshire Sunday News.
Allegations of missing gold from our Fort Knox vaults are being widely discussed in European financial circles. But what is puzzling is that the administration is not hastening to demonstrate conclusively that there is no cause for concern over our gold treasure, if indeed it is in a position to do so. Unfortunately, Eðìţəɗ never did accomplish his primary goal, a full audit of the gold reserves in Fort Knox. It's incredible that the world's greatest treasure has had little accounting or auditing. This gold belonged to the American people, not the Federal Reserve and their foreign owners. One thing is certain, the government could blow all of this speculation away in a few days with a well-publicized audit under the searing lights of media cameras. It has chosen not to do so. One must conclude that they are afraid of the truth such an audit would reveal. What is the government so afraid of? Here's the answer. When President Ronald Reagan took office in 1981, his conservative friends urged him to study the feasibility of returning to a gold standard as the only way to curb government spending. It sounded like a reasonable alternative, so President Reagan appointed a group of men called the Gold Commission to study the situation and report back to Congress. What Reagan's Gold Commission reported back to Congress in 1982 was the following shocking revelation concerning gold. The U.S. Treasury owned no gold at all. All the gold that was left in Fort Knox was now owned by the Federal Reserve, a group of private bankers, as collateral against the national debt. The truth of the matter is that never before has so much money been stolen from the hands of the general public and put into the hands of a small group of private investors, the money changers.
As a result of the mind control programming that students around the world are subjected to in the public education system, there has also been a curtailing of a fundamental element of human freedom: creativity. The study of human creativity as an independent subject was developed by Francis Galton, the originator of eugenics. Through his eugenicist outlook, Galton took a keen interest in the heritability of intelligence, with creativity taken as an aspect of genius. The potential of human creativity appears to be well understood by the global cabal and its operatives, and thus the magnificence of human creativity is ultimately suppressed in order to create a more servile and obedient global population. This inevitably becomes a population that never learns how to creatively express itself and can therefore have only a very minimal impact upon our shared collective reality. Without the ability to creatively express oneself, meaning and purpose appear to be offered to members of society through rote tasks in the form of jobs. How many people do you come across in your day-to-day life who attach so much of their self-worth and identity to the job they perform in society? Upon meeting someone for the first time, one of the first questions people will ask each other is, "What do you do?" Without a moment of reflection, many will respond by stating their occupational title. This is the ultimate hijack of human consciousness. Society has, for generations, been warped into believing that our current state of affairs is something natural and normal. However, when we take a step back and examine these constructs and paradigms in granular detail, the manipulation of society and reality in general becomes increasingly transparent. Party leader Adolf Hitler once stated, "When an opponent declares, 'I will not come over to your side,' I calmly say, 'Your child belongs to us already. You will pass on. Your descendants, however, now stand in the new camp. In a short time, they will know nothing else but this new community.'" The minds of children and the future generations of humanity are molded with precision in state-mandated education systems around the world, with an increasingly strong focus on agendas that will inevitably be used as a pretext for a global, totalitarian, new world order. Various agendas are introduced to children in the education systems as part of a deep alchemical ritual. The following information regarding this particular theory surrounding the alchemical rituals of the education system was taken from Tracy Twyman's book titled Regnum in Potentia. This ritual is ancient and can be found throughout human history, and most famously in the ancient Greek myth of the Titan Kronos, also known as Saturn, who consumes his children at birth. It is well understood by the ritually minded occult puppet masters of our reality that in order to ensure the global cabal remains in power, it must devour and consume the children who may overthrow its existing power structure.
One of the biggest questions about life is what is the purpose of life? And the truth is, life has no purpose until you give your life purpose. You give your life meaning. Life is not a process of discovery, but rather a process of creation. You are not discovering yourself, but rather creating yourself anew. Thus, with every thought, word, and deed you have is creative, and everything you experience is based on the choices that you've made or failed to make.
And the end of smartphones, which we all know is coming, for people who are resistant, what are they not seeing about the future?
They're not seeing that they are cyborgs right now. So they are cyborgs right now because they cannot exist without a piece of technology. They think that the technology is not embedded in them, but it is. It happens that you carry a phone in your pocket or purse, but the phone is embedded in you. You do not exist without that phone. I mean, the nightmare of anybody connected to data right now is to get that data wiped. That's why you have cloud services. That's why you have Amazon Cloud. Like all of these cloud services, which become the new phone. What people are missing is that every technology is fundamentally a bridge to the next technology. It is what human nature is about. We are seeking always the lowest energy state, manifested as industrialization, robots, and so forth. And it's not us, this is not me saying it. We know this forever.
Every technology is a bridge to the next technology.
Sure.
And it just seems insane for people to think of life without their smartphone.
But,
until you wake up and realize that was just the bridge to the next.
But where is your fax machine?
Right. Where's your home phone?
We are going to become gods. Period. If you don't like it, get off. You don't have to contribute. You don't have to participate. And if you're going to interfere with me becoming God, we're going to have big trouble. And we'll have warfare.
Right here. This is what they're doing. They're not out there looking for what you're hacking. They're routing through human bodies using synthetic aperture radar, looking right through your eyeballs. One more time, that's been going on since 2012, well known to all of them. So then they upgrade.
A great reset, it's a great deception.
replacing mum and dad small businesses and private enterprises with big tech and big business. Democracy and free enterprise go out the window, totalitarian government control slides in through the back door. Those behind this scheme are adamant that there can be and never will be a return to normal, that life will never again be what it was prior to. That is why they constantly talk about the new normal. The World Economic Forum meets every January in Davos. You will have heard of the expression Davos man. It refers to all the zillionaires and pop stars and popes and princes and politicians who meet every year to map out our futures. This year's Davos is very, very different to all the previous ones. The World Economic Forum, along with the United Nations, along with the International Monetary Fund, and along with any number of prominent globalist organizations and powerful individuals, including Prince Charles, together have jointly promised that the 2021 World Economic Forum will be used to introduce via together have jointly promised that the 2021 World Economic Forum will be used to introduce via a vast network of connected big tech corporations, online activist movements and compliant local and national governments something they call the Great Reset. This isn't some Sky After Dark fantasy conspiracy theory. It is a global commitment they have made to use the panic and fear generated by the as a means to reshape all our economies and laws and move to a new form of capitalism that focuses on net zero emissions. You might think this is a great thing. You might think this is a terrible thing. If implemented successfully, the Great Reset will undeniably and deliberately have extreme and possibly dire repercussions for every single one of your constituents. Already, the Great Reset is being widely advertised on posters and in ads across the UK and Europe, and no doubt will be here before too long. You'll own nothing and you'll be happy is just one of their marketing slogans. The plan involves replacing shareholders of big companies with stakeholders who happen to be left-wing bureaucrats and climate change zealots. Replacing mum and dad small businesses and private enterprises with big tech and big business. Mrs. Kafut's share portfolio is out, Greta Thunberg's zero emissions are in. Democracy and free enterprise go out the window, totalitarian government control slides in through the back door. But remember, it's not only a great reset, it's a great deception. Because in order to get everyday people to surrender many of the rights and freedoms we currently take for granted, the repeatedly stated aim of these organizations is to deliberately use as an excuse to use all the political and authoritarian tools, as Prince Charles puts it, that are currently being used around the world to eradicate the such as lockdowns, exclusion zones, forced closure of businesses, heavy fines, making protesting illegal, and so on, but now to eradicate carbon emissions. Those behind this scheme are adamant that there can be and never will be a return to normal, that life will never again be what it was prior to. That is why they constantly talk about the new normal. This is not me saying this. This is them saying it. The people with the power and the means and the obsessional desire to do it. And they keep telling us again and again precisely.
What is it, Dr. Evil?
Gentlemen, in a matter of hours, a meteor will crash into Earth, causing a global flood. That is, of course, unless you pay me.
700 billion and $1.3 trillion.
Pieces of the monument. The overall height is 19 feet 3 inches from the surface of the ground to the top of the capstone. There are slots and holes in the center stone that have astrological significance because they have been cut at precise angles to permit accurate readings of the sun and moon at various times of the year.
Standing on the highest point of Elbert County, the Georgia Guidestones have raised a lot of questions. 4 upright stones more than 16 feet high, with support stones totaling almost 238,000 pounds. And there's a message sandblasted in 12 languages and letters 2 inches tall. The sponsors of the mysterious project are said to be an anonymous group of out-of-state Americans promoting the concept of the conservation of mankind. Here's the mystery, though. Elberton granite businessman Joe Findlay was contacted to build the project by a man using the fictitious name of R.C. Christian. Granite City Bank President Wyatt Martin served as intermediary, handled the escrow account for all funds, and says he'll carry the secret of who R.C. Christian is to his grave.
The mere fact that it is a mystery as to the identity of the people will lead others to come and look at the stones and wonder who put those stones there.
It's been a long fight. It's been a long fight, and I just had to have a war.
I went to these Christians, they went to the police. The police said, we know what's going on in Arden, Delaware, and there's nothing we can do about it. This is 1963. My father took me to the Marquis of Hell Church a couple days after the Christians went to the police. It was a big issue in Arden amongst the cultists. So I'm sitting in a chair underneath the candlelight dinner theater where the Church of the Marquis of Hell is, or was. And basically I'm sitting in a chair, and Buzz Ware and my father are 10 feet away from me. And my father is saying to Buzz Ware, let's just kill him and throw him in the woods. And I was pretty much disgusted by them because I realized I wasn't going to get any help from the police. But a voice came to me in my head and said, look behind you. And I said, nah, I'm not cooperating with God. I'm not cooperating with the devil. I'm sick of this place. You're all whack. I'm fed up. That was my attitude at 7 years old. But behind me, I could feel 2 entities. And my father and Buzz Ware turned and looked at me, and they were in shock. And they said, Buzz said to my father, we can't kill this one. And so they couldn't kill me because I got divine intervention. But anyone who makes a commitment like I did, at 5 years old, I'm standing up amongst a room full of axe murderers, telling them what they're doing is wrong and that they'll never get away with it. I was saying, what are you, going against God and nature? What are you, out of your mind? You can't destroy the Creator.
A tramp who was brought in once, and he was killed. He was cut from his throat down to his stomach, and they ate him, or bits of him.
They killed a man at a ceremony?
Yeah.
In front of you?
Yeah, in front of all of us.
Did this man fight back?
No, I think he was, drunk or something. He seemed really dopey. He was laughing a lot when he was brought in. And he started screaming when they began to cut. But after a while, he died. I'd seen a few killings before then. Although I wasn't used to it, that was the worst one. I really don't know what I thought. I suppose I thought, thank God it's not me, yeah. I've seen loads of babies killed there, just newborn babies. aborted ones, which were only small. 4-year-olds. Any age, really.
Did they ever say they might kill you?
I believe they sacrificed a girl and killed another one. Some of the people that live in Delphi were very brazen about their Odinistic beliefs, and the more I got into it, that's a real thing. It is a real thing, and it's scary.
These kids who are being this brainwashed are being inculcated into a belief in Satanism on a very basic unconscious level. We in fact, and they in fact, are trying to raise a whole generation of Satanists.
In the past, satanic cults have maintained their membership by raising their own children within the cult. Now experts see an alarming new trend. Survivors say that satanic groups are establishing preschools and daycare centers for the sole purpose of recruiting vast numbers of small children.
We are hearing from those survivors that there is a deliberate and concerted and well-organized, well-orchestrated effort to infiltrate the preschool.
Who's used the plastic willies?
All of them. All of them.
And where do they keep the plastic willies?
They keep them in the cupboards. They got, as I said, they've got cupboards around.
Okay.
So they've got like maybe 2 cupboards there and 2 cupboards there. They've got cupboards around, all around the room.
Okay. So I want to just make sure I get this absolutely correct. So
and they've got exits. So if in case of, because they know that because they do not trust me and Gabriel.
Yeah.
That because they say that not to tell anyone about this,
okay.
But they do not trust us.
No, why not?
Because they can see them because they when they tell us not to tell about this anything, they look so curious. It looks like they don't trust us.
Okay, so I'll just get this right. Mr. Holling's house.
Yes.
I'll go there. You have to push outside. Then you go to the door, dark door.
Yes.
Go into a corridor.
Yes.
Got a little carpet by the door. Wooden floor, very dark like this door.
Yes. Yes.
On the sides of the, you show me there.
There's a living room at the front. There's a kitchen, and then
there's a little table.
Yes.
Then you go into the living room.
Yes.
It's got a large sofa.
Yes.
Which is in an L shape.
Yes.
Big Samsung telly on a large black shelf.
Yes. Yes.
Described. He said in the dining room area, he's got a wardrobe.
Yes.
Then.
And it's all just stuffed in spare clothes, as you said.
All stuffed with spare clothes, but if you part it.
Yes.
You find a little door.
Yes, but you can't really see it because it's kind of camouflaged.
It's camouflaged.
Yes, it looks a bit.
But there's a little wooden handle.
Yes. Yes.
You can open that.
Yes. But they've got exits. The thing is that they've got exits there because they can run out the house too.
Right. Okay. But you go down into this. It takes you into a basement.
Yes.
And then in there's loads of cupboards.
Yes, loads of cupboards and there's
in there.
Yes.
Your dad, Papa, Mr. Hollings, some other members of staff.
Yes.
Have then had sex with you.
Yes.
You know, they have a paper route to go to school, and then they walk in this guy's office, and the agent goes, well, what do people do? And the father's like, watches. The father's like ripping off his kid's clothes. So the father's like totally undressing his whole family. He takes out his penis and he goes over to the agent's desk and he starts slamming his dick in the drawer, just flattens it right up like a bookmark, and then just starts smacking his kids with it, flicks them like a wet towel in the gym. And he knocks one of his kids right in the eye, and the kid's eye pops out. Well, he looks at that as an opportunity, like, he just puts his flat wiener right in that eye socket. Gets caught on the back of his retina, and he starts trying to get him off of them, and he's cockeyed. Okay. All right. The father's about the name of nitrate. He's got smelling salts that he's been giving to his kids. Keep passing out, you know, bang with their heads are bleeding, and they've been able to break in front of an agent yet. And they do a whole cute little ta-da! Except 2 of the kids, half dead, shit kicked out of them. They're covered in feces. they instead of Ashley and Mary Kate or Michelle, as a 3-year-old kid, they gave me a doll cartoon for rehearsal, a rubber doll, not even plastic, like a test dummy, like it looked like a porn doll. It was just missing the stuff. Sure. You know, all those. You ever been one of those things?
Well, not one that I would hold up a mimic. 4-year-old, but yeah,
good save.
Have I ever?
Sure. All the kids that were on the show were very young then. Young. And they were up in their schoolroom or in the trailer. And I was there with just the crew. It was mostly guys, a couple of ladies. But I had the rubber doll. I'm in the bedroom. I have to do Anthony, the morality play of that show.
The little speech.
Synthesizer music comes in, you start talking, and so there wasn't at that moment, but that was the scene. So I'm in her room, I'm going, honey, I'm holding the doll. I'm looking into a rubber doll's head. Now, I was always a comedian since I was 17. So I said, I can't do this. Can we just read it? Do I have to do this? So no, we need it for blocking. Cameras need to see it. We need to see it. So I'm like talking to it, you can't do this, you can't do that. And then I just grabbed it, and I just threw it on the bed, and I just started pretending, Right. So the crew's watching this, and they're laughing their asses up. But I did it kind of slow. I didn't do it, I took my time with it. I didn't want to do anything to offend anybody. At first I was like dancing with it, and then I was like, laying in the bed talking to it.
Foreplay? Sure.
Yeah, exactly. And then, and it was very lifelike. What? Come on. That's great. You can cut this out, right? No. So one of the moms, is a punchline, so one of the moms comes down, and this is all true, and she goes, you gotta stop this right now. This is on the monitors, the kids.
Everything that the Salvation Army were asked about and the evidence that they gave, that no, children aren't safe in the Salvation Army right at the moment.
The Salvation Army has delivered a formal apology to those mistreated in its care.
They were meant to protect the most vulnerable children. Instead, they were responsible for some of the most shocking child abuse ever seen in Australia.
We are sorry, deeply sorry, for every instance when children were sexually abused by our personnel or while in our care.
Are you saying that it's possible that some of the perpetrators have still not been identified?
Not that I know of. Yeah, I hear what you're saying, but there's no one out there that I'm aware of.
Growing up in the army was very, what I'd call insular. It was, you were pretty much born into an organisation where you went to school with other officers' kids, you went on the Salvation Army bus to school, you were in playgroup, kindergarten, everything else with other officers' kids. Within ourselves, within our group of our own as well as more broadly, we were known as the OKs. We moved around quite a lot, as Salvation Army officers did a lot back then. Most of the abuse took place either via the Northgate Salvation Army or when I was at the training college in Parkville. My abuse started probably from the age of about 3 or 4, and it involved 5 different people over about 10 years. These people were the elders or the older people of the army, very well respected. So it sort of started very young and then continued up through playgroups, youth groups within the church itself, and then led to abuse within babysitting hours, groups that were arranged to sort of look after us little kids, the older kids sort of looking after us little kids. And the abuse really continued for about 10 years. I remember telling an older person, so I would have been sort of age 9 or 10 and she would have been sort of age 17, 18, and these were sort of the older people who were in charge of us younger kids to sort of look after us in youth groups that we had. And I remember telling her and sort of explaining to her I didn't want to go there anymore, I didn't like the person, made me feel uncomfortable. I then explained to her some of the things that he had done and pretty much just sort of got, that's just him, he's sort of funny, he just likes girls, he's just trying to be silly, you know, it's not the first time I've heard this, don't worry about it too much. I'm sure, he'll move on and it won't be a big deal. And then when I did try and speak about it a few years later, even to my mother, it was very much, no one's really going to believe you because of who they were or who their parents were. Some of these people's parents were quite high up in the army. So I was really given the understanding that if I did speak out and I did name these people, that I wouldn't be believed at all. Just the very fact that there is a serving officer still in the army that has allegations against him, and really the investigation that went on wasn't very detailed. And I do have concerns, having been involved in a couple of cases over the last couple of years, that there are still that cultural change to happen, that secrecy, that hidden nature of senior Salvation Army officials and officers is still going on or having an impact on children within the army. Particularly, I think officers' kids, it's very difficult for officers' kids to speak out. Your whole life revolves around who your family is, what your name is. To be able to disclose to their families is really, really difficult because you're dealing with people who have devoted their whole life to an organisation, not just from a practical, financial, housing point of view, but from a deeply spiritual, commitment to something. And for them to even acknowledge that the very children that they brought into this organisation weren't safe and probably still aren't is a really, really difficult thing to bring out.
Holy shit.
What's going on? What's wrong?
Listen to me very, very carefully.
Look at that.
It's all gonna turn off.
What?
It's gonna turn off and it will never, ever turn back on.
What's gonna turn off? What are you talking about?
Everything. Everything is gonna turn off.
Ben, did I lose you?
No.
Miles.
What the hell is going on?
Everybody, I have terrible news. In 2 months' time, our nation's entire electrical grid will be down due to a cyber attack. You might be wondering how I know this. Well, last night at 10 p.m. while I was showering, my Uncle Joseph FaceTimed me to tell me that I needed to get all of the money out of my bank account. Thanks to my Uncle Joseph's timely advice, I now have $22 cash and nowhere to spend it, because he also told me to get as far out in the woods as possible. There is absolutely no need to panic because I have spent my entire life preparing for this day. After my family finally had a son, I was left in the woods to fend for myself for 4 months until law enforcement found me. I was then returned to my Uncle Joseph because my parents did not want me. It's important to remember that most danger is just in your head. You're more likely to be attacked by a human than a wolf or a bear. And after the electrical grid goes down, most people will be dead within 2 months. Over 98% of our country is dependent on the electrical grid for food. That's why it's important that we learn basic foraging skills. Before you head out to go foraging in the woods, remember,
I make nothing. Zero. Zilch.
Yeah, on paper, they're a better team.
Right.
They have all the assets and resources that we don't. But let us get on the line, boy, and see if that factors in. I guarantee you it won't.
Wow.
Spend the next just couple of minutes talking to you about the importance of getting an updated booster vaccine.
Move this man!
Later.
I have no recollection. I'm sorry, would you repeat the question?
Is it your understanding?
What's the question again? I'm not sure. I think, I don't recall what it. I don't recall anything from that phone call. I don't recall I don't recall. I may have, but I don't recall. I don't specifically remember.
Do you recall that?
I don't recall. I don't recall this. If you show me this now and ask me the question, do you recall this? I'd have to say I don't recall. I don't recall. It's possible, but I don't recall. I'm not sure. Not specifically that I can recall. Again, this is not something that rings a bell with me that I would remember. I don't ever recall. I don't recall ever. Not to my knowledge. I don't know if they did. I don't recall. Don't recall specifically. Again, I don't recall. It may have occurred, but I don't recall. I don't recall him saying that. I don't specifically recall. I don't recall. But I don't recall.
The bottom line of this dossier, the bottom line allegation, the point of it is that the Trump campaign didn't just benefit from Russia interfering in our presidential campaign. The point of this is they colluded, they helped, they were in on it. This is kind of a real story. The connections between the Trump servers and the Alpha Bank servers were real. They were covert communications that someone was trying to hide, that the Trump organization and Alpha Bank appear to have been trying to hide. Now we know that the vaccines work well enough that the virus stops with every vaccinated person. A vaccinated person gets exposed to the virus does not infect them. The virus cannot then use that person to go anywhere else. It cannot use a vaccinated person as a host to go get more people. We and other news organizations have generally stopped giving an unfiltered live platform to remarks by former President Trump. It is not out of spite. It is not a decision that we relish. It is a decision that we regularly revisit. And honestly, earnestly, it is not an easy decision, but there is a cost to us as a news organization of knowingly broadcasting untrue things. That is a fundamental truth of our business.
You don't have a choice.
As long as not everybody is vaccinated, nobody will be safe.
Normalcy only returns when we've largely vaccinated the entire global population. So
get the fucking vaccine! You need to get vaccinated, and if you don't, you are going to die.
I know you're vaccinated, you're the smart ones, but there's people out there who aren't listening to God and what God wants. You know who they are.
The unvaccinated people.
My message to unvaccinated Americans is this.
If you are the unvaccinated, you are the problem.
You're the problem. Condemn them, shame them, blame them.
The only people that you can blame are the unvaccinated.
Frankly, we can't trust the unvaccinated.
They should not be part of polite society.
The lunatics who won't take COVID vaccines walking around lawfully unvaccinated? That's psychotic.
If you're willing to walk among us unvaccinated, you are an enemy. You have no right not to be vaccinated.
You don't have the right to contaminate someone else.
You can't go around pointing a gun in somebody's face, which is what it is when people are
At that time, over 10 million children died every year, and largely because of getting these vaccines, which were only available in the rich country, getting them out to all the children. Rwanda is an exemplar with a 97% coverage rate. Those deaths have been reduced to 5 million a year. The Sustainable Development Goals have, which are timed for 2030, have a goal of getting that to 2.5 million. Because of the pandemic and many other things, we won't achieve that. But the question is, do we keep going down? Do we get there during the 2030s or not? With the right prioritization, with taking innovation, including the latest AI innovation, I think despite all these challenges, we can still do that. Well, the first one here is a vaccine. This is called HPV vaccine. These are made in China, India, and the US with partners. We're getting the cost down, and we've proven that a single dose can protect women from cervical cancer. Today, most women don't get this vaccine, but we should get it to all the women in the world. And because we proved that a single dose is enough, that's very economic to do.
Timeline to do this?
Well, It's under manufacture now. We've started to roll it out. The regulatory approval's all there. And so, over the next several years, we just have to get that coverage up.
You're not afraid that people would accuse you about the vaccines and the related issues?
Well, it's unfortunate that there's some confusion about, the most miraculous health tool ever. Vaccine hesitancy's always been a bit of a problem. The pandemic, it went up, but, now we're trying to get the word out that, you want to protect your kid from measles or your daughter from cervical cancer. Vaccines are the main reason we've been able to cut childhood death, which is over 10 million at the turn of the century, down now to about 5 million. So vaccines are miraculous, and we have a lot of partners in China who help us with that work.
How do you feel when you become part of this whole kind of conspiracy theory stuff going on? Does that bother you? Does it get you at all?
Well, in my overall situation, I have nothing to complain about. Somebody coming up to me on the street, which has happened sometimes, and saying that I've chipped them and I'm following them around, as long as I'm safe, you almost have to laugh that, lady, why would I want to know where you are? I mean, really? Is that how I spend my time, is tracking you?
But how do you think this stuff happens? Because it became like a kind of running theme during the pandemic.
No, on a global basis, I either started it or was profiting from it and doing all sorts of strange things. That was completely unexpected. Completely making up, like saying that I profit from vaccines, or that vaccines, instead of saving millions of lives, actually are bad for children. That's a total reversal. And the fact that people needed a simple explanation during the pandemic.
In a way, you became victim there to something that's happening to a lot of people in politics now, which is the whole fake news thing. And
I think the big battle in this regard in the 21st century will be between privacy and health will win. Most people will be willing to give up their privacy in exchange for much better healthcare, based on 24 hours monitoring of what's happening inside their bodies. I guess very soon people will walk around with biometric sensors on or even inside their bodies, and will allow Google or Facebook or the Chinese government or whoever to constantly monitor what's happening inside my body, so that the day the first cancer cell starts to multiply and spread, somebody at Google or at the health authority will know and will be able very easily to nip the cancer in the bud. And the day that a flu epidemic starts, they immediately know, oh, a flu epidemic is starting, and they know who are the people who are carrying it, and they can take very effective and quick and cheap action to prevent it. So that the promises are enormous. The dangers are also enormous.
The whole fake news thing and the power of a conspiracy theory to take hold. Do you have within the organization people who are actually thinking about how you deal with stuff like that, or do you just accept it as part of the baggage of being a very wealthy, very powerful, well-known person?
Well, it's gone down somewhat with the end of the pandemic, but like there were
a few malaria cases that showed up in the US, and people were saying, okay, that's me doing that, or I own 1/4000th of the farmland in the US, and people have some, I own 1/4000th of the farmland in the US, and people have some view that somehow connects that. Yeah, 1/4000th
of the big country
of the farmland. But what can you do with 1/4000th share? At least in my math, I have a hard time
pulling off a conspiracy unless you get up to at least 2 or 3 4,000ths. I have people who track it, and we often think, which of these things should you respond to?
Hi everyone, it's that time of year again when we're seeing a lot of respiratory illness like flu, RSV, COVID, and pneumonia. It's not too late to get vaccinated if you haven't already.
The vast majority of people that have taken the shots are going to be going through a red pill moment. not taking years, not taking even months or weeks. They'll be trying to absorb all this information in an extremely short period of time, and many of them will go ballistic. So I expect frequent, irregular, episodic instances of chaos, but it'll be sort of an organized chaos in the sense that the people that go crazy won't be lashing out, most of them won't be lashing out at the society at large. They'll be going crazy and lashing out at their abusers, very specific individuals. So it wouldn't surprise me, for instance, to see many of the people that we now title the elite be picked off one by one by one and basically removed from this planet by the actions of people that they have harmed over these last 2 years that would be unpredictable and not unstoppable. You need to stand back, okay? People need to understand that there will be a section of the social order that is going to go crazy in anger, grief, all of this, and there will be reactions, and it's best to not get yourself in the way of those reactions, especially if you're not like a law enforcement personnel kind of fellow that's trained in it, right? Because these will be very violent reactions to having been poisoned, and some of them I expect will be spectacularly so in terms of the violence of it. So it's not going to be wise to hang out around these elite guys.
AI is evolving from within us. It's making us smarter, more creative, more productive. We aren't going to get left behind. We're going to merge with AI and charge forward into the future hand in hand. Ultimately, we're going to connect our brains directly to the cloud. That's the 2030s phenomenon. Cloud with medical nanorobots that go into our capillaries, provide wireless communication between our neocortex and the cloud. That's happening. It's not quite fast enough, but by the 2030s, we'll get there. Ultimately, we're going to connect our brains directly to the cloud with medical nanorobots that go into our capillaries, provide wireless communication between our neocortex and the cloud, just like our smartphones are connected today. Our intelligence will no longer be constrained to the size of our skulls and will ultimately be free to grow exponentially. Our thinking will become increasingly non-biological and more powerful.
This morning, Elon Musk announcing that for the first time, his company Neuralink has implanted a brain chip in a human. Musk saying the person is recovering well. Initial results show promising neuron spike detection.
Connecting with your loved ones, browsing the web, or even playing games using only your thoughts. This is made possible by placing a small, cosmetically invisible implant in a part of your brain that plans movements. The device is designed to interpret your neural activity so you can operate a computer or a smartphone by simply thinking about moving. No wires or physical movement are required. By participating in the PRIME study, you'd be helping to redefine the boundaries of human capability. If you've been living with quadriplegia from a spinal cord injury or with ALS, you may qualify for the PRIME study. We'd love to share more with you and get you on board. Visit our website today to learn more and to submit your application. We'll be supporting you with a dedicated team at every step on this revolutionary journey. Your courage and contribution could significantly shape the future of interaction and independence, not just for you, but for countless others.
Can I get your assessment of the health of American democracy right now?
Well, it's a little scary because we have
populism, which you would expect, but it's come in a form where the ability to accept election results is really up in the air.
And some of the norms about what the government does and how it works. So,
what the government does and how it works. So,
this what you need?
I'm hungry.
Yeah, cold out too, isn't it? Why don't you get a job? If you're so hungry, why don't you get a job?
I lost my job.
Why? You drinking? Is that why you lost it? Insider trading? Just joking. Listen, what's your name?
Al.
Speak up, come on.
Al.
Get a goddamn job, Al. You got a negative attitude. That's what's stopping you. You gotta get your act together. I'll help you.
You are so kind, mister. You're kind. You're a kind man.
It's okay.
I can tell. Please, you gotta tell me what to do. You gotta help me. I'm so cold. I'm hungry.
You know how bad you smell? You reek of shit. Do you know that? Al. I'm sorry. Just that... I don't know. I don't have anything in common with you.
Oh, thank you, mister. Thank you. I'm cold out here.
It's what a fucking loser you are.
What?
Yeah, it's a big election that'll take place in November.
Do not throw away our legacy out of cynicism or boredom or neglect. You have more political power than 99% of all of the people who have ever lived on the planet. What? Excuse me? Clap for that. Are you kidding me? You can not only vote, you can register people to vote, you can put up signs, you can march. All your life, no matter what else you do, you have one job. You are a citizen. You are a citizen. Okay, I am a liberal. Does it show? And I'm proud of it. Fish gotta swim, hearts gotta bleed. But why do conservatives think people who don't make serious dollars are not serious people?
Why do we let the right wing claim patriotism and religion for themselves? Liberals need to take pride for building the safety nets. We created Social Security, yes, so grandma would have money to live on. And believe me, she paid in every dime. We got the kids out of sweatshops. We should be puffing our chests and finding converts by the score.
You should have done it different. You should have.
Just shut the fuck up.
Where the hell are we? What are we doing?
Trump came here to the South Bronx, would you attend the rally?
Of course, I would want to meet Trump. I want to shake his hand.
He's the only president that I see that can ever make America great again. He's capable of doing that.
I would love to go to a rally with Donald Trump come, because I'm a big Donald Trump supporter, and I will support him 100%.
Oh yeah, definitely we're going to show him love. We're going to show him a lot of love, and you know, like they do in other states. We definitely need to see Trump here.
There's nothing but love for Donald Trump here in the South Bronx, the North Bronx, the East Bronx, and the West Bronx.
So you tell me...
We want Trump to come back, please, bro. Biden, get out of here, bro. I would come to the rally and support Trump. because the Bronx need a change, and we need somebody that's really going to help this community.
I would definitely come to a Trump rally in the South Bronx. I like him.
You do?
Yes.
Yes, I will come to a rally if President Trump was to come to the Bronx, and I also would bring other people to come too and support him.
Would Joe Biden get a warm reception if he came to the Bronx?
No, he wouldn't have, and I'll make sure of that.
I can tell y'all people far from perfect. All she want is Birkin, she ain't perfect. Jesus, he's the only one who's perfect. So all of y'all stop acting like y'all perfect. Y'all ain't perfect. This is for all my dogs, you're telling the truth. Biden ain't leading them polls, he leaving the booth. Shout out to loads of your beasts, is killing them over. FAFO, we be stretching these comments like they doing yoga. Y'all ain't perfect. They need to fire these judges, they are the criminals. 155 years in prison, the minimum. Do them so dirty, we masking up whenever we spinning them. They are the reason why all of our kids are looking so feminine. Y'all ain't perfect. Y'all keep playing with Jesus and say they game. Y'all can't die to come back to life, then die and do it again. Y'all keep swimming in sand and running them laps like y'all in the gym. Y'all keep thinking I gotta forgive you whenever you do not repent. Y'all ain't perfect. Playing with God and loving your ego ain't worth it. I'm trying to change the game and get everybody to worship the only God, that's Jesus Christ. I know they nervous. If you made it to the end of this verse, I know God working. Y'all ain't perfect. I can tell y'all people far from perfect. All she want is Birkin, she ain't perfect. Jesus, he's the only one who's perfect. So all of y'all stop acting like y'all perfect. Y'all ain't perfect.
Jesus, he's the only one who's perfect. Jesus, he's the only one who's perfect. Jesus, he's the only one who's perfect. Jesus, he's the only one who's perfect. Y'all ain't perfect. Forget these thoughts, I can't buy no more burgers. No more chopping rocks and praising God, I'm learning. Our country's hurting, people need discernment. Prayer state, hit the snake, I got him squirming. Y'all ain't perfect. I'm going hard like Geno Jennings, all these demons scheming. No more popping mollies, I can see the devil scheming. Big prayer, October coming, I'm demon slaying. We ain't playing, my angelic angels a wingspan. Y'all ain't perfect. I'm conservative, boy, evil coming, I'm murking them, boy. We in a firmament, boy, the earth is flat like I'm murking you, boy. Y'all getting jabbed, turning to zombies, this is disturbing, boy. Y'all ain't perfect, y'all ain't Jesus, y'all ain't working, boy. Keep a Bible in my Lambo, I go hard like Rambo. I get on my knees and I pray to God, I need my Lord to handle everything that I can't fight alone, the holy stamina. We need good preachers, holy scriptures telling me y'all need Jesus.
I can tell y'all people far from perfect. All she want is Birkin, she ain't perfect. Jesus, he's the only one who's perfect. So all of y'all stop acting like y'all perfect. Y'all ain't perfect.
Jesus, he's the only one who's perfect. Jesus, he's the only one who's perfect. Jesus, he's the only one who's perfect. Jesus, he's the only one who's perfect.
I'm about to catch a body demon body bag. Zip them up and send them downstairs with the drown. I can't even say it cause I know they wanna ban me. You're not allowed to talk about the gays or the trannies. Y'all ain't perfect. Never been a homophobe, now they wanna label me one. If they would only leave the kids alone, I probably wouldn't say nothing. Everybody wanna cancel me, then play Christian. Satan got everybody hating long distance. Y'all ain't perfect. Y'all ain't perfect. Rappers still be popping purpose. Fentanyl hurt you, boy, it's curtains, no discernment. I'm like a doctor on the beat, I'm like a surgeon. Chop the beat up at that fire just like a furnace. Y'all ain't perfect. Y'all ain't perfect, only Jesus Christ is perfect. Who y'all playing with? Let Loza run the service. This administration looking like a circus. What y'all gonna do when Jesus open the curtains? Y'all ain't perfect.
I can tell y'all people far from perfect.
Hi, I'm Dylan Mulvaney.
That the crop circle was not here the previous day but had appeared the following morning was a fact. That John Whaley was here at dawn could be confirmed by a military patrol jogging by at that time. John returned to the local pub later that same day and played this remarkable footage from his camera. Even so, many believe that he had managed to manipulate the film with computer animation during this short time span, something that computer animation experts doubt. To overlay a perfect animation over a handheld, unstable film would need several days of computer work using the equipment of that time. Today, the film is still a great mystery. Although confessions now have been made by people claiming to be responsible for it as a hoax, others believe the hoax theories to be organized debunking, due to the fact that this remarkable footage would have dangerous effect on the public if declared real.
Most people still today think that all entertainment to do with movies, drama, is therefore nothing more than their entertainment. It never ever was that case.
Of course, television can't perform such miracles as this, yet. But perhaps there's no harm wishing that it could.
The greatest social messages are promoted through movies and drama, high drama, through the fixation of emotive sequences, emotional sequences, not logical, factual sequences, but pushing points across in an emotional way which register and fix in the mind. So emotional content is very, very important, rather than going through an actual discussion or an argument using logic and facts. There's no debate. And when you're being downloaded through fiction, your guard is down, the censor part of your brain is not in action. It isn't saying, yes, I agree with this, I disagree with that, as you would in a debate or a lecture. You're actually in an alpha state, being completely downloaded with new ideas.
Throughout history, social engineers have refined techniques designed to control large populations.
About 100 years ago, this big organization with many branches, they wanted to rule the world basically using Britain as a nucleus of a system, an embryo, which also was going to be joined with the US and the Anglo-American establishment. It wrote about the kind of culture and the changes of culture over a 100-year period that they would actually design, implement and bring in. And H.G. Wells talked about it too. He talked about arenas. He says arenas could be put up across the world for sports, for instance. Now at that time, sports was something that children, school children were into. Adults became adults and got onto adult things. So it was unimaginable at the time that people could actually believe that there's even a need for adult sports and entertainment, never mind having arenas built across the world. But he said we can do this and foist basically a sports culture for the males. Using a tribal system, we're all tribal to an extent, that's why we even bother to vote for a tribal leader. This is well understood, that's why we're supplied with these leaders. And because the average man was to become more disengaged from his own destiny, as the expert class arose, it was decided that the males would get their outlet basically, gradually becoming helpless as males through sports. Therefore they'd have a tribal team they could identify with, they could cheer them on as they were winning. In their own personal lives, they were getting nowhere. They were getting disenfranchised in a sense as experts took over decision-making for them in all kinds of fields. So this was psychology at use, planned before they even implemented the sports. When radio came along, of course, they used that to the maximum. Sports for the men, soaps basically for the women, and then in came television, as I say, with its alpha state, its hypnotic state. And sure enough, around the 1960s, really, 50s and 60s, it took off. It really, really took off. And men became glued on Saturday nights to the sports shows. A culture industry, which is called by its own the culture industry. The Soviet Union had a department called the culture industry. Their actors and directors were called the cultural leaders, because they would, like a computer, people are like computers, all you have to do is keep giving them new updates every so often, and you can change an entire country or a nation or a block of nations who are all getting the same upgrades at the same time along certain paths. Today we call it political correctness. Most people want to belong to their peer group. They want to be the same as everyone else when it comes to opinions. In fact, they judge their own personal sanity by bouncing ideas off their neighbours and friends who will answer back and agree on these same topics in kind. It doesn't matter if the topics or what you're given are facts or utter nonsense, as long as everyone agrees at the same time. You'll say, well, I'm sane, and your friends will all agree because they've had the same information given to them.
But they've been programmed, and I'm sad because I know that it's hard for people like that to take an interest, a serious interest in world affairs, to take a serious interest in what their elected officials are doing. And they're not going to be really inclined to study or discover the deception that's being used against them. And so I'm sad because I see all of that in a flash in my mind as being an indication of how easy it is for the masses to be manipulated.
The scientific dictatorship understands what makes human beings tick. They understand our psychology. They've studied it, and they're using it against us. But the minute the public awakens to the fact that there is an agenda to manipulate them, and the second the public realizes that they are being conditioned and controlled, the establishment begins to lose that edge they've got over people. So all I ask viewers to do is to think for themselves and to study public relations, to study advertising, to study propaganda, and to realize how much of it is out there in their daily lives. And then make the decision for yourself. I just want people to think on their own and to not have their decisions and their thoughts and their ideas pre-packaged and basically downloaded into them.
If it's on TV and a famous face says something, then it must be true.
I mean,
he doesn't have
really?
to show you facts.
Is that how I spend my time? Is tracking
you'd be brought up with these faces. That's why they keep these guys on television into their 70s and 80s. You've grown up with this father figure who's on television every night at 6 o'clock, in your house, in your room, staring right at you, and he's a father figure. Would he tell you a lie? So you naturally never suspect him. And this same man will lead you through new topics. He'll introduce experts on the topics. They'll have a little summary at the end of every talk, and you are now left with the conclusion that's presented to you. You don't arrive at it, it's given to you, and it's good enough for you.
When I was growing up, people were talking on their front porches, neighbors were playing baseball, there were nightly barbecues. You don't see that anymore. We've lost our communities. You drive through neighborhoods, you see the blue glow of television sets. We're losing our humanity. So if you want to rebel against the globalists, the social engineers, start by turning the TV off a few hours a day and actually getting to know your neighbors, getting outside that comfort zone, expanding your horizons. By coming together as communities, by getting to know our neighbors, we defeat the social engineers.
We're programmed today perfectly, just like machines. We tie this in with the Brzezinski. Brzezinski said in 2 Ages. Now this guy was way up with the NSA. He's a master geopolitician. He admits he works in 20, 50-year periods to do with geopolitics in other countries. But he said himself, the public will shortly be unable to think or reason for themselves. He was meaning by the form of information that was given to them, the type, the formulas that were in use then in the 1970s. He says eventually they'll be unable to think or reason for themselves. And eventually, he said, they will expect the media to do all their thinking and reasoning for them. Well, that's happening today. That's why people today can't think outside of the programming from television.
Zbigniew Brzezinski, Obama's main foreign policy advisor, talks about how a cult of personality can be artificially manufactured and influence the masses.
First months of my administration to pull our economy. Sorry about that, guys. To pull our economy back from the brink, including the largest and most sweeping economic recovery plan in our nation's history.
We're gullible, but we're also willingly gullible. We want a human being, a big daddy, to come along and make everything right for us. And as long as we believe that, we'll always basically get shafted.
In addition to John, sorry, I just noticed that I jumped the gun here. Go ahead and move it up. I'd already introduced all you guys.